I was very interested in getting more insights in my electricity and gas consumption. After doing some investigation, I found several expensive hardware solutions which could do what I wanted, but not more than that. Then I started reading more and more about home automation and found a free open source application called Domoticz. I was immediately interested as the solution is hardware independent and can also run on a Raspberry Pi microcomputer. If you're interested in home automation but you're not sure what it can actually do for you, then this video is definitely worthwhile watching. So we're currently looking at the utility tab within Domoticz. I start off here because I started off with monitoring my electricity and my gas consumption. In order to do that, you need a P1 USB smart meter cable, which is a cable which is connected up to your Raspberry Pi through USB. And at the other side of the cable, you have an RJ11 connector, which goes into your smart meter provided by your energy supplier. Now, how do you set this up within Domoticz? Not too difficult, to be honest. You go to Setup, you go to Hardware, and within Type, you make a selection for the P1 Smart Meter USB. And then let me look at my own device. So I'm clicking the one which is already installed. You give the device a name. So in my case, P1 Smart Meter. The device, again, P1 Smart Meter USB. Data timeout you leave on default, which is disabled. Serial port. If you only have one device connected to it, then the list consists of one device. If you have multiple devices, you're not sure, then you have to test one by one which USB device it really is. Baud rate, very important. The default value is 6900. You need to change that to 115,200. If you're not changing it, then you're not going to retrieve any information from the P1 smart meter cable. The rest you leave on default, which means CRC on, rate limit 0. You're going to press add. After pressing add, you can see that the smart meter is listed in the device overview, the hardware overview. And what it does, it will seek the connection with your smart meter. If it finds the connection, then it will create a number of devices. Now, the number of devices are listed in the setup devices overview. And no, in this case, I just did a quick search from P1. And what you want to see is that you have hardware devices connected for the P1 smart meter. If it's listed, then at least you're 100% sure that there is a connection with your smart meter. If you have difficulties connecting, then it either means your baud rate is set to the wrong setting. So that means the default 9600, you need to change it to 115,200. Or it can mean that the USB connection needs to be changed due to the fact that you might have multiple USB devices and you have the wrong USB device selected. Yeah. So what I did is, or at least the ones I'm using, is the electricity consumption, and I'm using the gas consumption. So what you do, if it's green, you press it, and that means you add device. And in my case, I've added both electricity and gas. And you can see that because I can set it as unused, which means they're currently active. Now, then going back to this utility tab. So after you've added the devices to Domoticz, so again, first hardware, then after hardware, the devices should pop up in the devices list. You add them to Domoticz, and then they should be visible here on the utility tab. Now, what kind of information does that provide us with? It provides us with real-time electricity consumption. In my case, currently 112 watts. It provides you with the today's overall statistics, 2.7 kilowatts. It provides you with the counter on your smart meter for electricity, so the overall figure since the smart meter was placed. Then you have return value. So in case you have solar panels connected up to your smart meter, then this will also be captured in Domoticz. We have a log function, and if you press the log function, then it provides you with some statistics. Basically, day split over hours, week split over days, month and year. And in addition to that, there's also a reporting functionality. Let's go back to 2018. Let's pick one of the months. And in the reporting, you have the overall figures split over months. And if you click on the month, then you have this overview like this. You have an overview per day with the usage values, return values, and overall cost picture. The arrows indicate you're either using more or less. Then we have gas consumption. Gas consumption is the figure for overall gas usage for current day. So in my case, 7.2 square meters. Then you have your counter information for gas usage since the smart meter was placed. And same as we just saw, we have the log function with day, week, month, year, with the same reporting functionality. We have an edit button, and in the edit button you can change the device name and a description. And there's a notification button, and in the notification button you can put in certain thresholds and send, in example, an email or a push notification to a mobile device. So in an example that I have, that's providing me information over the day. When I'm using more than 8 square meters, then it's going to send me an email with the overall usage information for today, greater than 8 square meters. I have an integration with my solar panels that provides me the real-time information of the electricity being produced, which is currently 257 watts. Also here, same story, log figures, and also reporting as we saw with electricity and gas. Now, solar panels. How do we set up solar panels? Again, always where you start off is going to hardware, and I'm using Solar Edge with the default integration with Domoticz. That means the system you're using should be listed in the integration list of Domoticz. So I purposely used Solar Edge to connect to my system, which has an integration with Domoticz. So how do we set it up? We have a name, Solar Edge in my case. We have an API connector. Solar Edge sends the information over the internet, and the web page from Solar Edge, you can set up an API connector. Normally it means you need to ask your supplier if they can set it up, because in most cases you're not administrator on this particular web page. And once the API key has been created, then you just add it to your Domoticz configuration. And then, same as with the P1 smart meter, you have your device list. And if we click on Solar Edge, then it automatically creates the devices in your overview. You add them to the list. which brings the solar panel information onto your utility tab. Next integration I want to talk about is your thermostat radiator valves. I'm using OpenSetWave radiator valves. That means every radiator that I have has a digital radiator valve set up, which is connected to OpenSetWave. OpenSetWave, let's see how we set that one up. We're going to hardware, and we're clicking on OpenSetWave. It's pretty easy. It's a USB stick, which you connect up to your Raspberry Pi. You select your serial port, and after you've done that, you need to connect the thermostat radiator valve to OpenSetWave. Well, how does that work? We go to Setup, Node Management, and we're going to include node. And the device that you bought has a manual attached to it, and in the manual it will display you how you can connect the device to OpenSetWave. That means how to include the node. So that normally means you need to press a certain button on the device, which sets it up into inclusion mode. And when it's set up in inclusion mode, you're going to press include node on this menu, which automatically sets it up as a device in this list. So this list contains all my OpenSetWave connections. OpenSetWave is, I think, pretty handy. You have different bands that you can connect. It's using a mesh setup. So let's have a look. Control panel, groups, network. Yeah. So it's pretty handy. I have, let's have a look. I have 39 devices connected to the system, roughly. And the devices strengthen the OpenSetWave network. That means I have battery-operated devices, and I have devices connected up with normal 220 volt power. The 220 volt power devices, they strengthen your network. So that means throughout your house you can put the devices everywhere you want. However, you need some devices in between which are connected to normal power. So for instance, my Raspberry Pi is in my technical room downstairs, and throughout my house, upstairs, downstairs, everywhere I have some OpenSetWave devices connected to it. And due to the fact that the devices are set up as a mesh network, the OpenSetWave will work out throughout my house. Yeah. So what can you do with the radiator thermostat valves? Well, as you can see, the certain values, for instance, this one is on 8 degrees, which you can manually change. And manually changing is basically how you would normally walk to your radiator and change the value by using your hand on the thermostat valve. This is a digital version, so that means if I change the value here to, let's say, 20, then I don't have to walk towards the radiator. It's automatically set based on the value that you put in. Well, that's not that special. However, you can put timers against it. That means it automatically can set to a certain value at a certain time, or before sunrise, after sunrise, or based on certain days. Whatever you, however you want to set it up. You put in the value, and then you can select days, weeks, or selected days. So that's pretty flexible. Even more powerful. So apart from timers, you can also use this in combination with some scripts. So if I go to setup, I go to more and events, then you can also combine scripts with your heating system. So let's have a look at one. Bathroom. Yeah. So for instance, here I have a script that changes the value of my heating system to 80 degrees. Then bathroom upstairs goes to 23 degrees, and my floor heating shuts off. Now, why am I setting this up? Because by using this system, I'm actually being much more efficient on my gas consumption. I have quite a complex setup at home. I have a floor heating, I have radiators, and I have convectors. And the combination of three was quite deadly on the costs, meaning every time in the morning the bathroom would go up in temperature. So let's say we put it up onto 23 degrees. Then within an hour you would use 3 or 4 square meters of gas, because my floor heating would go on, my radiators would go on, my convectors would go on, high gas consumption. And now by using scripts, I can basically change or I can basically fix the heat inside my house to a certain radiator by shutting down my floor heating, by shutting down all radiators and fixing it to one radiator, and also changing the value for my heating system to the maximum amount of degrees. Because normally if you use, for instance, floor heating, I normally use my floor heating system with 50 degrees, so that's a low temperature. But if you want to do radiator heating, then you need, I would say, minimum 70-75 degrees to heat up your the room where you have your radiator. So I'm very flexible in using this by using scripts. It looks complex, but it is actually quite simple. Everything is just drag and drop. It's just clicking around, using your devices, and you need to get used to it, but it's not too difficult, to be honest. I'll create a different video just to explain how to use this scripts. It's called Blocky, and as mentioned, it's just drag and drop, and within just a couple of minutes you have a script created. So what else do we see? I have a OpenTerm gateway inside my system, which means you have your normal thermostat for your heating system, and you have your heating system itself. And the cable which runs between your thermostat and your heating system, I've put a box in between. That means the cable is, I cut the cable in half, I put the box in between, and with this box I can basically do everything my thermostat can do, and some additional features next to it. How does it work? Going back to hardware, I have a OpenTerm gateway. It's called, I'm calling it Remea CV, which means the Remea brand heating system. The type you want to select from the Domoticz integration list is OpenTerm gateway with LAN interface. Data timeout you leave on default disabled, and you put in the remote address, and the port number of the gateway. The gateway I will also create a separate video, because there's quite some things to tell, how it looks and how you need to set it up and install it. You add the device. You add the hardware. You add the devices from your devices list. And what does that give us? It provides us with the water pressure information. So that's normally a value you would see on your heating system that is being published into Domoticz. I have the maximum temperature set to my heating, which is actually a nice value to use, as I just mentioned, because I have also floor heating. I'm always playing around with low temperature for floor heating for long periods of time, and special 80 or 90 degrees set to, for instance, a bathroom in the morning for a certain period. It provides you your thermostat value, in this case 20.5, and it overrides your thermostat values. So basically my heating system is completely controlled through Domoticz. I'm using various scripts in combination with the thermostat valves. It's quite powerful. It can do a lot more than your normal thermostat. It's quite flexible. It also has quite some information that you can retrieve from the internet, how to set it up, how to use it. Let's have a look. What else do we have? Yeah. I have a weather integration. So if we go to hardware, and there's dark sky weather. This is again one of the integrations from Domoticz, which is a integration with internet weather information. That means you have to go to the dark sky weather webpage. You create on the webpage your own API key, and you need to put in your location details, and then you have your local weather information. Now, you might think, okay, what's useful about that one? Actually, it's quite handy. I'm using the outside temperature in my area for my heating system. That means my thermostat has a possibility for having the outside temperature. However, you normally need a device that you need to buy for, 100 or 150 euros. And an antenna above your house to collect the weather information. And in this case, I have the information from the internet, and the good thing is, going back to, let's have a look, open term. Let's have a look. Utility. Right. So the outside temperature, you select the outside temperature from the device that you created from dark sky, and then it puts the information inside your thermostat. So if I would walk now towards my thermostat and you click on the value for outside temperature, then it provides me the internet information from Domoticz. So what you need for that is the OpenTerm gateway. And then within this within the device setup, you can put the outside temperature sensor and then press save. What else do we have? We have a Philips UE integration. So there's a standard integration from Domoticz with Philips UE. Again, we go to hardware. We go to Philips UE bridge. That means you add a hardware device. You take the integration Philips UE bridge. You put in the IP address of your Philips UE bridge, port number, and then you press register on bridge. That means you need to press the link button on the UE bridge, and once the UE bridge starts flashing, you press the button register on bridge, and then it adds the devices on Domoticz. Now, what kind of devices can you use in combination with Philips UE? It will retrieve all your Philips UE light bulbs, and it will retrieve the Philips UE sensors. It is not capable of retrieving the switches. So Philips UE also has this light switch possibility. The switches from Philips UE are not possible to visualize in Domoticz. So again, sensors and the light bulbs. So as an example, here I have chair light, which is one of the Philips UE bulbs. You can see the dimmer functionality is there. If you have the light bulbs with different colors, then you can also set it up in Domoticz. I'm using in Domoticz, where you could also say, okay, but Philips UE also has its own app that you can use and where you can steer all your Philips information, which is true. However, I don't find it that stable. At least I had quite some difficulties with Philips UE, that it was not always doing the things I wanted it to do. And I don't have that issue with Domoticz. It's very stable. It always works. I'm using Philips UE in combination with Domoticz for in the evening hours. When the sun goes down, I put one of the lights always on. No matter if someone is home or not at home, there's always a light on. Same in the evening hours. Then upstairs, I have a light going on different timing values, which mimics that someone is always home. What do we see more on this page? We have the virtual switches connected. So you can see here a switch, and we have another switch here. What does that mean? It means on my mobile I have an app, and it's called the Home Pilot app. And the Home Pilot app has an integration with Domoticz. That means Domoticz as a system needs to be reachable from outside, and I can perhaps make a different video how to achieve that. If you can make it visible from the outside world, then this particular app you can set up with the connector to your network. So how I did it is giving your Domoticz a DNS name which is accessible from the outside, of course through HTTPS secure traffic. Then on the app, you can indicate your home perimeter, which means if I'm leaving my house, then I have a perimeter set of, let's say, 200 meters. And outside that perimeter, this switch will either go on or off. That means Domoticz knows when I'm home and when I'm not home. And based on this, you can create scripts to indicate, for instance, if I'm not home, then turn off all switches, or turn off my heating system. That's quite handy to have. I also have my sunscreens set up in Domoticz. Let's look again at the hardware devices. I'm using RFX-COM, which is a physical transceiver connected up to my Raspberry, and this hardware device can send information over 433 megahertz, which is compatible with my sunscreens, or can also, for instance, be compatible with your garage door system to open up your garage door. In my case, I'm using Somfy sunscreens, and I was quite surprised, but the Somfy sunscreens are, I think, 18 or 19 years old. But the sunscreens, or the remote of the sunscreen, can be used with the system. That means within Domoticz, I'm learning the code of the remote of my sunscreens. And once it knows the code, you can open and close your blinds, in my case, through Domoticz. Now, how do I use that? In the summer, when it's really hot and we're not at home, we're at work, then my house can be quite heated up, getting 26, 27 degrees inside. And with the possibilities of Domoticz, we just looked at the dark sky weather connector. So it can retrieve the information how hot it is outside, and then I can have a script saying, for instance, if it's 27 degrees outside, then automatically turn on the blinds to go down. As well as, for instance, if there's too much wind, or if the temperature goes down, or it's a certain timing in the evening, that the blinds automatically go up. So since I've integrated this into Domoticz, I'm never touching my 18 or 19 years old remote. It's fully controlled from Domoticz. It's quite a nice integration, and not too difficult to set up. The last thing I want to show is an alarm system I have based on various components from OpenSetWave. So if you look at the device list from OpenSetWave that I have, then we have the Vibaro button. We have the Neo Coolcam door window sensors, and we have the AOTech siren. The Vibaro button is just a physical button. When you press it, it triggers off another device in your OpenSetWave list. So if we go to node management and groups and network, then number 39, 34 and number 32, those are my Vibaro buttons. Once it's being pushed, it triggers off two devices, number 8 and number 22, which are my sirens. So if you have OpenSetWave devices that you want to connect, then you have to do it through the OpenSetWave control panel. Second thing I have is a script with the combination of door window sensors and again the sirens. So going to events, so the part in Domoticz where you can set up scripts. I have, let's have a look, a script for my door window sensors, where if the sensor is being triggered, it automatically sets off the alarm for a number of minutes. And what you can do, you can for instance also say, if I'm home, then you should never trigger off a siren. If I'm not home, then the sensors are being triggered. That means if I'm home and I'm opening up the window where the sensor is being placed, then nothing happens because the system has an exclusion when being home. Then do not turn off the siren. And when the system sees that I'm not home, someone has opened up the same window, then the alarm is being triggered. So that's the how you can combine different brands, different types of devices through Domoticz. Well, I hope this gives a little bit of insights what you can do with Domoticz. I will take out some specific components from Domoticz in my next videos. I will have a look at the blocky setup, so how you can create scripts, what you can do with it, how it works. And I will also spend some time on OpenTerm gateway. What is OpenTerm? Where can you buy it? How do you need to set it up? Which hardware requirements does it need? And what can you actually do with it? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel, will definitely help. And hopefully see you next time.